3DL mainsail on it. It's, you know, this is maybe a 1978 boat, probably about the cost of a used Volkswagen, you know, not very expensive boat. They're not doing well this night. I'm out there taking pictures and I'm following them around, and what's happened is the whole fleet has already finished, and the shore breeze has started to shut off because the sun is going down. So it's gone light, and they're still maybe a quarter mile away from the finish line, but they're cackling, laughing, because they're having such a great time keeping this old 1979 kite flying in like 2-3 knots of breeze and keeping the Catalina going, and they know they're going to finish, and they're thrilled about it. They're going to be an hour behind, you know, they're not even going to score because they're going to be an hour behind everybody else. But they're having a great time. They decided to crack the wine out early, and the cheese plate is already on the deck. You know, that's already happened. And Phyllis is 61 or so, and so I asked later, the average age on this boat is 63. And they have, I guess it's 5 or 6 women on board. There's another boat in this fleet, it's a Tartan 10 that's skippered by a woman named Sally Hoyer. On that boat, so 33 feet long, crew of 7, and the average age is 74 in this fleet. Can you imagine? So the fleet, it's a great thing. Now here's where I wanted to head. I told you I've got a couple daughters. They're now 13 and 16. And about maybe 4 years ago, 2 of their friends in their junior program, their dad said, I think our girls can go beat all these old ladies in the Milwaukee Bay Women's Series. So he went out and bought them, he went to eBay and he bought them a $1,200 Merit 25 on eBay, bid it, okay? It was in terrible shape, awful sales. It doesn't make any difference. But anyway, these 4 girls, average age of 14, hit the line on a Merit 25 amongst 20 other perf boats and did last place in the first year, but never came off the race course without big grins, and went to these dinners afterwards and heard about all the things they did wrong and why they should have gone left instead of right, and you know, all the things that happen in those kinds of events, and were completely embraced by the fleet. I think partly because the average age sagged from 58 to 57 when they showed up. But anyway, so the next year, the Merit 25 moves up 3 spots from last place to third out of last, and the stepdad of these 2 girls, the dad bought them the Merit. The stepdad wanted to up the dad, so he's a boat broker, and the market had collapsed, and he went out and he found a J30.
No.
And he handed it off to the girls, and he said, "Girls, this is yours if you want it. I'm pulling it off the used market. It's got some soft spots." And the girls went down to the boatyard and they dug out all the holes and they fixed it up and they glassed it and they got it all ready to go. And the other dad bought a new head sail, and sure enough, they're now right in the top 2-3 places. They're beating the fleet to the line all the time, but not correcting out. And their average age is now 17. What part of that isn't fun, right? It's just a phenomenal thing. Why wouldn't more people want to do this thing that seems so accessible and seems so rich and has such, it's just such a wonderful thing. So here are all the reasons that I heard anyway. I heard it's not kid-friendly, and it's too hard, and it's expensive, and it's scary, and too busy, and there are better options, and uncool, and complex, and can't swim, and blah, 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 right? There are all these reasons why we can't do this. I want to zero in on this one for a second. This can't swim one. So, in Milwaukee, we have kind of a similar place to this place. It's a little different model, but ours is called the Milwaukee Community Sailing Center. And we have what 35 years ago somebody lobbied the city to give us some parkland for $1. And we put in a little sailing center that's a shared fleet. It's a member-based program. I'll tell you more about that a little bit later. But you come down and you get some training, and once you pass your test, you get a rating, and you now have access to any of 30 keelboats that are parked out on moorings or sometimes slips. And you can sail all summer long in this program. It's a wonderful place. It's got a junior program, and it's got an adult training program. And it just makes sailing as easy and affordable, and there's tons of access in Milwaukee as a result. But the problem is, I'm on the program committee. We can't take anybody who isn't 7, 8 years old and who has passed a swim test for our junior program. And the reason is our insurance policy tells us that we can't take anybody that hasn't passed a swim test and isn't 7 or 8 years old, right? My wife, who in the last 2 years has been the champion of the Milwaukee Bay Women's Offshore Series, by the way, can't swim an inch. If she goes in the water, she's sinking to the bottom, but she wears her life jacket, and that's her solution to not being able to swim. So my point on this can't swim issue is that we're in a place right now where we narrow our audience so significantly and dramatically for reasons that aren't true that maybe we need to rethink some things. Now, we're not specifically talking about solving the can't swim problem today, right? But it is a place where we put some blocks up. Make sense? Let me jump on one more thing on this. Our program says you have to be 7 or 8 years old to jump in. It also says when you're 18, you're done with that part of the program. So we have an age in requirement and we have an age out requirement too. And those are both new since sometime after 1979. Remember the importance of that here? Okay. All right. Actually, let me back up for a second. We're going to dispel some notions. Which ones do you think we have to hit? These are barriers, right? Which ones do you want to make sure you're armed with to get out of here and be able to talk to them intelligently?
Too hard.
Too hard, good one.
Expensive.
Good one.
Too busy.
Good one. All right, we're going to get those 3 for sure. Anybody else?
I'm insulted by the uncool because I'm super cool.
You are super cool. There are outliers everywhere. Very good. All right, we'll get all those. All right. So let's just do a quick, this is the audience participation part. So raise your hand, please, if you're over the age of 40. Okay. Would you raise your hand if you're not over the age of 40, please? All right, very good. So I actually have to say that I've been in rooms where nobody's been able to raise their hand. So that's a little bit of a problem. Here is the U.S. sailing population by age group. All right, so here we are, you guys. This is us. So I'm going to just talk through these ages here for a second. 17 and less. I live at home with my parents, right? I'm going to school. 18 to 24. If I'm going to head to college or the military, this is when I do it. 25 to 35 and 36 to 45. I'm going to bump those into one category, and I'm going to say, usually right now I'm getting my job. I might find my first wife, right? And if I'm going to have kids, this is when I'm going to start, right? So if I do it then, and then there's that magic age 46. I got to tell you, I'm 48 years old, so I belong in this group. I'm allowed to go sailing with you folks. Here we all are. Right? This is the boomers, right? In 40s, and then I'm not really sure what happens after 70, but we can all figure that out later. Yeah. Okay, so let's compare that to the U.S. population and age group because that's that group we're talking about, right? Here's the U.S. population. This always surprises me a little bit, and actually I have to tell you, I didn't do as good a job explaining this in the book as I wanted to, and I'm going to fix it in the second edition. And the reason I didn't is I didn't have the age groups correctly sliced. I had it by decade. It doesn't matter if it's by decade. It matters where you are in life, right? That's where it has to happen. So the chart works much better this way. Let's just talk about this, though. 27% of the U.S. population is under the age of 17. Who knew that? Isn't that wild? So what that tells you is that we underperform by 100% in sailing against the U.S. population. Even though we have a bunch of under 17-year-olds in it, we're not doing anywhere near as good a job reaching out to these kids as we need to. Okay? We do great with college-age kids. We really suck it up in this group right here, and we really outperform with the boomers. And who hasn't seen that? And isn't this a boomer thing, basically? Doesn't it feel that way anyway? That's how it feels to me. So, again, let's do a researcher exercise for a second. Remember 1979? That was the year we had 12 million of us that were doing this recreationally. So I like to think, what was going on in these people's lives in 1979? So if you just take this whole thing and slide it back 30 years,